But if a man steal a mango or breeze blow up a woman dress, bet your life we making headline in the foreign press. True, true. Lamba bombe pa, lamba doba, lamba de la de da, di la loba, la doba ba, di la da. We had a little riot in this town. The headline it got, you'll swear the whole island was burning down. But I had to laugh when a visitor turned and say, what the fuss about? This happens in New York every day. You know our sportsmen are rated amongst the best. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. All the lovely buildings which shows our progress. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. But a little shanty town and a woman in a ragged dress. Bet your life it making headline in the foreign press. True, true. True, true. Palabaroba, labaroba, palobare. We have been under colonialists and suffering under imperialists. Now we want I hope that our visitors would listen to the song carefully, because it's true. They're trying their best to stop our progress with bad propaganda. I mean the foreign press. Bad things are blown out of proportion and spread all around. But the good things of the island they will never mention. Like our scholars have sit and passed every test. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. You know our music is rated amongst the best. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. But if a man steal a mango or breeze blow up a woman dress, bet your life we making headline in the foreign press. True, true. Lamba bombe pa, lamba doba, lamba de la de da, di la loba, la doba ba, di la da. We had a little riot in this town. The headline it got, you'll swear the whole island was burning down. But I had to laugh when a visitor turned and say, what the fuss about? This happens in New York every day. You know our sportsmen are rated amongst the best. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. I hope that our visitors would listen to the song carefully, because it's true.
Good morning, Freetown. Good morning, Sierra Leone, and good morning to our friends in the diaspora. Welcome to Truth Radio on 103.9 FM. My name is Christian Conte, and this is Stop West. Stop West brings you a deep dive analysis of major issues that happen across the country and on various platforms. Our guests are mostly the people who bring you the news stories on the radio, on television, and definitely on newspapers. In today's edition of the program, I've been joined by Mohammed Jawad Nyale, who happens to be the Outreach Coordinator, Strategic Communications Unit in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Jawad, good morning. Welcome to Truth Media.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Christian, and really excited for being here this morning.
Thank you very much for joining us today. And we are expecting Melvin Tijan Mansari, who is a journalist, social and political commentator, to be here to join us on the program. Today, we shall look at two major issues. First is President Julius Maada Bio's statement at the UN General Assembly, and we shall look at the internal wrangling and issues affecting the country's judiciary. Stay with us for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes here on Stop West.
I hope that our visitors would listen to the song carefully, because it's true. They're trying their best to stop our progress with bad propaganda. I mean the foreign press. Bad things are blown out proportion and spread all around. But the good things of the island they will never mention. Like our scholars have sit and passed every test. There's nothing about that in the foreign press. You know our music is rated amongst the best. There's nothing about that.
Welcome to Stop West on Truth Radio 103.9 FM. You can also join me now with various social media platforms on Facebook and on YouTube and follow the program as we're here to discuss pertinent issues across the country and, issues where the media don't cover and that they make the news within the past 2 days or 1 week. So we start with Mohammed Jawad Nyale there with me in the studios, and before we discuss the key issues there, Jawad Nyale is a colleague in the media, working in print media, done edits Politico, one of the the biggest papers in the country where they do very well in terms of their layouts and the standard of writing. He don't be managing an Epic Radio, and he's taking another phase in his life. They do public service now, and it's been a transition. Like you always say, man, one post radio always ask me, where's Jawad? So Jawad did all that, and there again. So let's start there. What has it been like, the transition, from traditional media, print, electronic, now to public service and government relations and all that? And what it don't sound like for you?
Yeah, it has been a very, very good transition. I mean, better than I even expected, because in a way, one thing I also get the benefits of I get the benefits of practicing back in the media for a decade, and that they give me a full perspective, a 360-degree on everything really. Mm-hmm. And in a way, that my experience also they inform the way I approach my work, and we approach communication basically, and also make sure say there is no vacuum. I mean, over the last 2 years, we've done significantly well in ensuring that we are almost always there for put out the news, for bring to you the source system with the news, when are the newsmakers, them for put on podium as well, for let everybody talk to people, and we hold portfolios them in government. And I would say that transition has been really good, because I'm also doing this. And the reason why that transition has been so easy now, because of the fact that I also have a very, very easygoing boss. It gives a lot of latitude and space and trust as well for work, Minister Chernoba. So it has been very, very easy. And which I also don't bring to the team as well over the last 1 year as well. It's the way we treat the media. So it's not condescending. We see the media as partners, traditional media, the new media, where the spring come up. So all of that as well don't inform how we deal with media, how they approach them, how they share information, the level of openness, and all of those things have been really, really a good thing. And from inside as well, when you are inside now, you get to see a lot more things that you couldn't have seen.
Whole different perspective,
a whole different perspective, and so you understand the challenges and firsthand because you go through them. You understand the opportunities as well that we could explore as well for do better in terms of information sharing, information integrity, and all of those things as well. So I think in general it has been really, really good, and the support as well from colleagues them as well. All of the things that we don't do, obviously, is not me alone. It's the teamwork, the level of work that we put, and the high standard which we hold ourselves to. We also know say the society the whole we too.
Definitely. Of course, me said only follow the information ministry and most of the work they do, and I think somebody like you there is giving a lot of credibility, a lot of quality work to the team, and they do some kind of a good job keeping people abreast, and Una keep doing that job, but we will still be here, to ask the tough questions.
Oh, we expect nothing less.
Always.
And every time I can meet my colleague journalists, them like you, or when they have conversations, look, we expect nothing less. Coming from a place, coming from the media, and even now that I'm in government, one thing we really, really value as government, the contribution where the media gets in with democracy. Because when you keep asking these tough questions, when you inquire, when you ask, it just they enrich your democracy. Yeah. On some days it might be uncomfortable, but we show up anyway and try for explain as best as we can, knowing that the public trust we, knowing that the public expect we as well for respond to some of those queries, some of those questions. So in a way, we respect the media has a job to do, and we really encourage them for making them always do them.
Definitely keep doing the job you do. Although we sad for miss you, I can always say you left at a time when you were doing so well. And in my own candid opinion, I don't know what your other colleagues and think. After Lamanaba won Giants of the Year, like you were up next, you're like this person who was doing so well at that particular point in time. But definitely there are transitions.
I'm humbled by those. I'm humbled by those sentiments and comparisons. Thank you very much.
So now let's go to the core issues here. So President Julius Maada Bio was at the UN General Assembly. He gave a speech. He spoke on behalf of other African countries. And me say generally, I enjoyed the speech because I looked at the president posture. It was, authoritative, and he was giving some insight on what he wants for Africa get and things like that. There are other perspectives to that, but let's start with what you think generally about his speech. What does that mean for Sierra Leone and the African continent as a whole?
For every one of we winner, Sierra Leone and them, we were remarkably proud by the speech and by how profound some of the lines in that particular speech being there, because it talk on several things we really they affect we all as Africans. We really they affect we in this part of the world. We probably know they affect other people in other parts of the world. And he was not just talking as our president, he was also talking as a global leader. We get a huge stake now. And for know how important and how significant this speech is, you just have to go back to 2018 when he gave first speech to the United Nations. If you look at the tone, the tenure, and some of the things that we talk in that speech, compared to what he is now talking about 7 years later, it tells you this is a man way in vision as well. The world has embraced his vision with education and human capital development as well. It don't tap into the opportunities as well for bring Salone to the global spotlight. And Salone in a place now where, as small as we are as a country, but we are now a significant voice in international diplomacy. We are now a significant voice in advocating for Africa. We're a significant voice in advocating for countries like Palestine and demanding that there is a ceasefire. So all of that was something that was encapsulated in this particular speech. And for me, some of the most profound things and what he really, really mentioned, we touch me now that where he urged United Nations to work better, because as an institution, we really depend on it a lot. And going back to the anecdote about how important United Nations was in our lives at Sierra Leone when we had the civil war and we had to go through that decade of turmoil, and how important United Nations as a body was in ensuring them providing necessary support, peacekeeping, negotiation, right up to the phase where we finally get peace, and how it worked for us. And basically in his speech, he just be to say, if United Nations work, it will save millions of lives. There's war in Ukraine, there's war in Gaza, and some other places them in Africa. Sudan, for example, almost a forgotten conflict in places like Mali, Chad, all of them conflicts in the Burkina Faso. So he was just basically saying the United Nations should work for everyone and should not necessarily prioritize one conflict over the other and just ignore other conflicts because in the other parts of the world, and let the entire world act as a single unit, like what United Nations do. So the power with the UN Security Council gets as well, it feels diluted in some of these conflicts because one conflict have gotten much more priority over the others, and the issue of veto, the issue of even we place as Africa in the UN Security Council was a huge part of his statement as well, which I feel really, really proud of.
Yeah,
And generally, the sentiment has been overwhelmingly
he
proud.
mentioned the fact that Africa is one of the largest blocks on the by 1.4 million people, on the continent, and we really need to get a voice. You can't have a Security Council side. We as Africans not get a voice, and we are like the major players.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the part where he spoke about Africa not being just Africa, not to like aid.
Yeah.
Something I forgot the actual quotation. I've missed it, but it say African are like partner for work with.
Yeah.
Not vocal look like you. They sorry for we. But the question that comes now, most critics now maybe of the president will be saying, with all these very bold statements by the president, how do we translate some of these things back home? People they listen to the speech and it's nice, it's beautiful, it's good for Africa. Back home, what does it mean for us as Sierra Leoneans? Again, effect on we, and does that change what happens to the average Sierra Leonean here in Sierra Leone? They listen, we might not even care about it. They happen in probably in Gaza, although it's as serious as it should be, and we're not even following international politics. We only care about here, and they are listening to our president. What effects does that have on Sierra Leoneans back home?
We are living in a global world, right? So that's not the first thing we'll need for recognize. So when we present up on a global stage and in the advocates for the United Nations pay attention towards them with in certain areas or in certain parts of the world, or when we present as the ECOWAS chairman now, they go around in a region where you've had several coups and democracies under threat. Basically what he is doing is not just serving the international community, it also to protect Sierra Leone. Because if then conflicts and they in places as close as Mali, they keep raging on, and then those conflicts, God forbid, go now other countries which we are very, very much closer to. If it's Ivory Coast, it could be Senegal, then it could be Guinea, then it could be Liberia, then it could be Sierra Leone, if you look at it that way. In a way, he is trying to protect Sierra Leone. And that global statesmanship as well, also the position we country in rooms where we are having bigger conversation on development, for example. And by the way, in engagement, far outweigh that particular speech we give. That particular speech is just one of the many things we have really done at the United Nations in the last week. We've been having engagement with different global institutions. I know we have all seen the 2.2 billion compact endorsement that we've had for the energy sector. So in terms of those things being translated, now then conversation and then now they get with big partners, big investors, people who now believe in Sierra Leone as a place where they could put their money, because we don't set up the necessary regime for handling funding and translate them into concrete structures, actions, or programs for the benefits of Sierra Leoneans. So all of that, it's what he's doing. So when we go to these places, what would they do? It's much more than the speech. It is also meeting with people who matter. It is meeting with partners as well and getting them to commit resources to some of the ambition they will get as a country. And the forefront of those ambitions is energy right now. And we've been having big waves here at the United Nations this week, which is a good thing. And in the next few months, a lot of movement will be happening on ground. Already there are existing projects as well. We already don't start. So in terms of speech to action, engagement to action, so these are some of the things we do right now.
Okay, so there's always been this question about when the president travels, what he brings back home. You have statutory travels like this one we do, Gonanga, the other travels he does, and people question. The big question around all of it is that the president go out, there's a lot of things coming in. Example, this 2.2 billion you talk about, and other things we get for signing all that day. But how does it translate down in the ground? Because a few years ago you had, when in 2018, President Bill just went to the UN. On the sidelines, they get this thing about Acorn and signing for street lights and all that. They never materialized 7-8 years down the line. And how do these things that we talk about, so now we talk about even MCC, the American government, how long is it going to take to actually materialize? It's just about what you go out to say, get discussions, it's on paper, you sign these contracts. How long does it take? Because the average Sierra Leonean, we all know, not about the speech of the president make, not about which you already talk, the almost $1 million in the carry. It's about how it translates and affects the lives of the average salon person. Now they go make even understand what we discuss. So as far as I'm concerned, president don't go make speech. How that speech they affect in life? How they go around and say, okay, because of the president, this in travel, this happened, and we see him physically.
And because of that travel, a lot of people they talk about. You also have to know that if you look at, for example, what we are doing in agriculture right now, we were in McKinney some days ago for the Civic Day series, and the Minister of Agriculture just really outlined the number of things and we just Bombardier as a district where they contribute to feed Salone. In terms of egg production, Bombardier is the second highest producers of the local poultry egg that we see in the markets. It's much more cheaper as well. And if it talk about the volume of rice, it talk about the volume of money even we available right now, up to $20 million basket credit line we available for local farmers as well. All of the investments there for transform just a sector like agriculture is a consequence of them traveling. It's a consequence of the partnership and the engagements with the president and the ministers as well have been doing over the last several years. So, and there's much more as well to come for invest in other sectors. For example, we have now a huge cash injection into livestock and poultry farming as well. When then things they kick up, we are going to get to a point where, for example, the local market in terms of responding to prices for eggs or livestock or meat, it could be competitive and local farmers go get money. But when they gather money, the other thing we for know as well is that when they gather money, it means they could hire more people who have jobs, more people who have salary. And there is more contribution of we own food to the table. Now we don't cost, we import bill, food import bill, we don't cut significantly. And the goal is for make sure, say, when we cut that money, obviously it's a forex now that is not going out of the country. From the last speech with Minister of Finance released over $100 million. 4 or 5 years ago, it was over $250 million. So it tells you about where we are. So all of that excess 150 million we for come out of this country. Now we get farmers that would produce enough rice that up to 20-25% of the rest with BFP they buy, or even much more, maybe I could be missing the figures, are now produced locally. They buy them from local farmers for put them into the school feeding program. What that they mean as well is that when a partner like BFP buy, it means say they don't put money in a farmer in pockets, and that money they able to employ more people, they able to buy more machinery, expand on the things them way they do. All of that in the consequence of the travel.
Yes. So
we are now talking about the Mission 300. We now energy. We who the pilot. World Bank the support. We don't give them commitment. Them. We cannot achieve all of that if the president was just back home and the focus on just solving the problem from back home here. Yeah. Because these problems, now problems them we meet, and our problems them we will try very, very hard for minimize them as best as possible, but they might not even end necessarily but also we are realistic that when we go out, we meet people, we talk to them, they are interested and then come
could come and
invest,
help solve the
then
problem.
there's a ripple effect on everybody
I would love
else.
to hear Melvin's perspective on most of this, but when it comes to, we'll definitely talk to him. Now, more look at the in the president's speech, more look at the area around foreign policy. You know, growing up, maybe I always know say Salon with foreign policy is like not non-aligned. We always take the middle ground in most things, but now we are bold enough to take some stance. For example, there was a certain time when we put to a vote when we had issues between Russia and Ukraine, and Sierra Leone literally supported Ukraine because the West all supported Ukraine, and we get our block votes and we supported. Even though Russia, they contribute to Sierra Leone in some way. You know, they have over the years provided, and at some point in time I spoke to the attaché there, they provided dump trucks, some other energy solutions for Sierra Leone, but we still take them bold positions then. Positions like this we take. We say, okay, we support Israel, or we support Palestine, for example, or support Russia or Ukraine. And the president mentioned some of those in his speech, took those positions boldly. What are the ripple effects it has on us back home? Now we're not a non-aligned, now we take positions as a country. It's a bold step. But what are the effects we get on we?
The first thing first we'll recognize is that the fact that with diplomacy don't move so far as openly taking sides, openly stating we position on things, it just don't show you how far we don't evolve as a country.
Which comes to consequences too.
Of course, I'm coming to those consequences. But also when I start, I also mentioned that, look, we are living in a global world where all of the action and they are tied to different things. They're tied to economic support, they are tied to aid, they are tied to so many other factors, right? But also, especially with position on wars going across the world or conflict, we are a country we don't go through our own fair share of brutality during the Civil War. Yeah. So it gives us, and this is something what the president also mentioned, it gives us a better perspective than most countries when it comes to really advocating for the end of those wars. And in all of those positions where we take, basically what we were saying, we are not necessarily opposing Russia per se, but we are just saying, let's have a ceasefire and make sure we deal with the humanitarian crisis, and in Gaza as well. So, and we have always been open as well for work with everybody, every country. And despite those stances that we take, this has not necessarily ruptured or damaged our relationship with the other countries and with at the other end of their resolutions. Because let's not forget, countries like China, for example, in some of those resolutions, and they not even take side, they abstain. But it not necessarily reflects, this doesn't necessarily affect relationship with them. So diplomacy works in such a way that
they know that we don't have a choice. They know self-volume.
Well, not necessarily because we don't get a choice, because you also have to know that Salon as a country as well, we don't come really far, and President Biodun really tries significantly for reposition we image as a country. We don't have now the Security Council. We are chairs or co-chairs of different global institutions in the world. The president has just been given an eminent person as part of the G7+. So we get all of them big status, and then big status, and it also means, say, as small as we are, people actually they count we now for no we thought or we position on huge international issues.
That's a very interesting part. You talk about the G7+, you know, and I watched the debate on social media, and critics of government say G7+, not so like the G7 nations, they list all the countries they were in, like very impoverished countries, war-torn countries. They say that they will do that category. And the question is, why would that category? What do we bring to the table? Why are we different from those countries?
I've seen a lot of those public debates, and a lot of the one them way. Look, and this is the beauty of democracy, right? Yeah. That we don't necessarily have to agree with these people. We go criticize, we go condemn. We share different opinions on these things. But I've seen this play out a lot of the time whenever President Bio get any significant achievement, there are people who will try for denigrate that particular position or that particular status or even the association organization with Gandhis. Oh, this is not this, this is not this, this is not this. And they try for water down that achievement. I've seen it a lot, and this don't play out.
It's a Sierra Leonean thing.
Yeah,
now it's always
maybe.
been the
And so I've seen that deep pessimism. But like I said, people they have a right to hold to those opinions. And you might not necessarily, no matter with how you explain it, but in all necessarily will change in perspective. But what it mean for we, it just means more respect, more recognition, and more opportunities as well. Because take, for example, the C10 and the walkway Salon de Dude as well. A small country as we are leading the charge for the reform of the UN Security Council, for make Africa get a permanent place. And we have doing that quite brilliantly. Yeah, maybe concrete results have been slow to come because it not necessarily just depend on we advocacy. It depends on a lot of other things, including them people and the way actually get the power for restructure the UN Security Council for actually agree to that. But we are in a point where we have done tremendously well, so much so that the African countries, like the fact that President Bio is in charge and he is leading that particular conversation, and the fact that we even got to the Security Council with the support of the African Union and all other bodies way being out of the UN Security Council the African Union, tells you a lot about the position where we hold globally in the world, right? So, and that is something very, very significant. As a Sierra Leonean, you go out, you are proud because if you are in the United Nations, if you're in New York this week, whilst all of them meetings there they hold, whether na side events them, whether na the major plenary as well, na the UN General Assembly, you'll be proud because you get not just President Bio, by the way. You get ministers, you get notable Sierra Leoneans who are leading on several fronts for leading global conversation there, for get people to action. Yeah. And I think we even have a candidate for the ICJ elections in the International Court of Justice where they come up with President Bio also nominate in his speech. It tells you that a lot of doors have been opened so far.
So President Bio mentioned a lot of things that is being done at that level. The UN Security Council trying to, get Sierra Leone's voice there, speak on behalf of Africa and all that. But when we come down to ECOWAS, and we're currently, the head at some level, ECOWAS, there's been lots of questions about ECOWAS and its effectiveness within the sub-region. And people ask, say, if we're not able to come together and ECOWAS and make concrete decisions, and how do we call for a shot at the UN Security Council? For example, we don't talk about having one currency and one Africa, for example. These things have gone on for years. The question comes, who leads this one Africa? Which African country will take leadership? Nigeria might say we get the largest population. This country might say our economy is better than this. So if we as Africans at that level, really come together and solve our own problem first of all, how do you think we will be taken seriously to have a seat at the UN Security Council? These are the questions people ask President Bio as should advocate for that top level. What happens down at ECOWAS level?
Within ECOWAS, they face not necessarily new. Every regional body with countries and come together, whether na Euro, whether na COSAFA or even na the Middle East, the League, the Arab League, all of them blocks then because they're all interests not homogeneous and not be one. So it means they might not always agree on one thing. So then turmoil there, then difficulties there. It's not just with ECOWAS, right? It predates President Bio in tenure, and maybe even after President Bio, then difficulties there are still good there. But you can't, that not necessarily means a for stop Africa from getting a permanent seat in the United Nations, because let's also not forget, this is not even a request per se or an appeal. It's just a matter of equity. Yusuf quotes. Yusuf quotes, for example, the number of Africa, the population of Africa, the part role they play, and all of that. It just makes sense. It's just an issue of equity, right? So then things are always good. That disunity, that the fact that we all can't agree on one thing, whether it's a currency or traveling restrictions and all of that. Even in Africa here, you get a situation where, but even this also they happen in Europe. migration crisis, for example, means say all European countries are not speaking with one voice on migration issues. Some have much more tighter, they get much more tight migration restrictions than others in the way how they deal with Africans them as well. You go na Asia as well, you get the same problem as well. New economies are springing. There are questions about how everybody should deal with AI. These are global conversations that are happening, and it also they divide countries.
Definitely.
The Hamburg
Me
blocks
always
them.
get
So
issue generally with African positions. So now imagine you get for take visa for go some African countries.
Yeah.
You have to go to South Africa, you need a visa.
Yeah.
Within ourselves as a continent, we're able to come together, get free movement and free trade, and now we're asking for something bigger. And when the president mentioned that, I was happy that yes, the president they call for something like this. I would love it to happen. But the question I also asked, jokingly asked my colleague, we in an attaché somewhere, and I say, my example I gave was funny but realistic. I said it's like me having a younger brother at home. When I meet the whole thing, I bring the resources to the home as the elder. I meet the whole thing. Then all of a sudden, I just grab say we need for get some equality or equity, whatever we choose to call them, like this. Then how much do you bring to the table? People, the UN Security Council for begin ask how much value do you bring to the table? How much resources do you bring to the table? How much manpower do you bring to the table? These are the questions they will ask.
Yeah.
We really get all down there.
I believe we'll get all of that, because if you look at even the volume of the things them way the natural resources will they export, for example. I'm talking Africa as a whole. The volume of raw materials will come up from Africa. The volume of brain drain as well that we are also having as well. It contributes significantly to the global economy. But let's not also forget an issue of environmental justice, for example, starts with the fact that why should they give them raw materials, or countries like China, for example, they come here for raw materials, and other countries, frankly, US and others, then they produce much more, then they manufacture much more, which it means, say, for example, they emit much more greenhouse gases and bad things into the atmosphere, where they destroy the environment. And one of the advocacy is as well, let's just have the fair share of the contribution we they make negatively, pay for that damage where we see in African countries where we are having serious environmental crises. So these are questions we self can ask them that question.
Definitely.
So I know we have a lot more to do as Africa, but that not necessarily means that we are not ready for waiting President Biode advocates for, because we've been ready for like 20, 30 years ago now in terms of what we have been calling for, because you have stronger African countries in terms of trade as well. Yes, in some countries the deficit is wider, but in terms of the things where we all can do together collectively as a unit, we could do much more, obviously. AU, ECOWAS, and other bodies, these are not things they are oblivious to, but it doesn't mean we are not ready. We are ready. And of course, I know there are deeper questions to be asked about the one in we currently. Do they have the appetite for the reforms? Or these are just excuses we then go make for just shut the door on Africa?
They will never have the appetite for the reform unless you ask for, quite frankly, the president they don't do. The president of Kenya, he was a lot more direct, says, if we not get this, we are stepping out of the UN generally. And I think that was a very bold call. We might not have made such a bold call.
Yeah, so everybody in own, like I say, everybody in own tone and tenor and approach to this, it's quite different. So because of the mantle where we get as Sierra Leone and the mantle where we president gets,
ECOWAS. Okay.
So he might not go that far necessarily. And will be much more measured, but also very, very firm in asking for the things that we want.
Out of the president's speech, for a short minute, out of the president's statement, if there's an agreement that Africa needs to have a seat or seats on the UN Security Council, in your own personal opinion, which countries you think they can represent better? Because I did the first game for start. 54 countries on the African continent. This person gave us say we get the largest population, we have the largest economy, we have this, we have that, and all the diversity there. In your opinion, which countries then? Well, you say Sierra Leone as a Sierra Leonean, with our population, our economy, and all that.
I will refuse to name any country right now because, look, even among Africans, in fact, this is a very deeply, deeply discussed subject in academic forums, in diplomacy, like. if we get to that point, like which two
This
countries
could be your opinion.
will-
Not to-
will- will-
it's separate from government, separate from the president.
Yes. So
it's a personal opinion.
unfortunately, in the position where this have, I don't get the luxury of expressing those personal
You say Sierra
opinions.
Leone. Why not? If
I
the
w-
president they lead that charge.
No. I want
Why
it.
not?
No, frankly, I want it to be Sierra
But-
Leone. But right now, I cannot speak because it go hang on so many factors. And I know, for example, if we get to that point, outside the United Nations finally bulge and say, let's have this reform, let's give Africa what they have been asking for. But also, there's also this question as well. You know, when I would talk about the appetite for reform, you also have a block of the United Nations who have been saying, okay, if we give Africa what they want, Asia is going to come calling. The Polynesian countries are going to come calling. Then you forget the Arab countries will get for come call. Then you forget Latin America will get for come call. So for some big countries, we get really huge power in United Nations. This has always been a conversation about which presidents will they be setting. There is also that as a conversation. But going back to who is sitting there, who that get for be that two-member, there are different models that have been discussed, by the way, when at the diplomatic circles or academic circles. There is one school of thought where they say, okay, you know what, maybe it could be rotational. Then there are one school of thought where we say, okay, let's look at that person in strength in terms of, like you say, population, economy, and a number of things. Yes, and then can it be rotational? So all of these conversations, all of these options are open. But we're not even going to get ahead of ourselves, right, as Africans. So we still go stick to the position where the seats and the push through President Biya, where they say, give Africa permanent seats and give we apart from the permanent seat, give we other seats as well. We will also deserve, and so Africa will get a very, very fair share of. Africa will get a stake in all of the conversations, in all of the decisions that are being made, and will play a much more significant role than we are playing right now.
Thank you very much, Mohamed Jawad Nyale. Continue to stay with we in the program, and we get a lot of other questions coming up, and we want to take a short break and give you some time for breathe when we come with very tough questions. In name Mohamed Jawad Nyale, and in the Outreach Coordinator, the Strategic Communications Unit in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Stay with us. This is Stop Press.
You want to do more, faster, any you dey, the EcoBank mobile app, they puts the power of banking na you want. The app, they make you able for pull cash from any ATM or express points. You don't even need a card. Send money across all 33 African countries them with rapid transfer. Transfer funds locally or internationally. Pay bills them like school fees, lights bill, even tax. All just with one tap.
That's not all. The app self to make you able for buy top up for your AfriCell and your Orange Lights now. If it creates virtual card or load your prepaid card direct from the app so you can shop online with no worry. When you want to surprise your party, just send them one redeemable token where you go cash out. And if you don't go shopping, just scan and pay with your EcoBank Pay.
EcoBank mobile app fast. Convenience and security all day na you want. Download the EcoBank mobile app today and bank the smart way.
EcoBank, a better way, a better Africa.
Me man, you no go believe this. Orange Money cash out fee don't count down to only 1% for any amount you cash out.
Young lady, now true say Orange Money they charge now 1% for cash out.
Yes, sir. Just 1% of the amount where you want for cash out.
So if I cash out 1,000 leons, now 10 leon no more they pay?
Exactly. 10 leons for 1,000 leons.
So me picking, if I cash out 100 leons, now 1 leon they pay?
Yes, ma. Just 1 leon for 100 leons.
Wait, bar. If I pull 50 leons, that now only 5 cents they pay?
Now you don't talk so.
Wow, this one fool me much. I know one day here is such low fee. Orange Money don't make things easy for we all.
Now, cash out for only 1% of the amount with the widest agent network, na Salone. Now the cheapest cash out fee. No more stress, no more high fees. Just easy transaction. Orange Money, they any outside you go.
Orange Money, they are for you and me.
Are
Are you tired of missing all your online meetings due to unreliable internet? Or are you paying too much for your internet and experiencing low speeds or even struggling with connectivity during video calls, streaming your favorite football match or show? WorldLink Communications Sierra Leone Limited, authorized reseller of Starlink in Sierra Leone, is here for your businesses and enterprises with super fast, unbeatable and affordable speeds here to cater to your needs. At WorldLink, we provide local support anytime, any day. To know more about our services, visit us at our office at 115 Beach Road, Lumley, or contact us on 080 000 111 or 075 000 111 or on our website at sl.wlnet.com. WorldLink Communications, empowering connectivity in Sierra Leone.
I hope that our visitors would listen to this song carefully, because it's true. They're trying their best to stop our progress with bad propaganda. I mean the foreign press. Bad things are blown out proportion.
Welcome back. The program is Stop Press on Truth Radio 103.9 FM. My name is Christian Conte, and I still have Muhammad Jawad Nyali, Outreach Coordinator, Strategic Communications Unit in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education here, and we are looking at his perspective about the President's speech that was made at the UN General Security Council, UNGA. Jawad, so you don't mention a lot about, the goodies in the President's speech, and you have been trying to tell Sierra Leoneans that, what the President talking about his speech has a lot of things to do with us as a nation, as a continent, and globally, and the position Sierra Leone, that platform was period they can to we for seek most of the answers. Now, the President also mentions things around terrorism, international security, and this comes at a very difficult time for Sierra Leone, where lots of questions are being asked. We get drug issues nationally, we get Kush epidemic, we have drug issues internationally in West Africa, Sierra Leone specifically. Almost every week I listen to media institutions, they will arrest somebody in Gambia, Liberia, and they point to Sierra Leone. And we also have a very broader issue where allegedly a fugitive from Holland is here. We're not even sure that in day what is being done about it. There's a lot of debate around that. But yet the President is bold enough to talk about terrorism and international security. Back home, questions are being asked about what is being done to tackle things at the local level. How does that make the President's speech sound in that regard?
Well, as the president of Salone, definitely he also invested in the fact that he wants a safer and much more secure country internally, but also in our borders as well. And I remember, I go back to the example in Makeni where we had the Minister of Internal Affairs, but they talk about how much then they do in terms of making sure then crack down on people where they supply drugs, on people where they move drugs, or insecurity generally, for example, in a place like Kenema where sadly one of the Catholic priests them lost their life because of armed robbery. So these are things we, generally as a president, he is concerned about it. And domestically back home here, the Minister of Internal Affairs really they do well for make sure they tackle these things. But if anytime we talk as well, we also need to look at the regional or global context where other countries are with safety and security. And then you will know that, of course, we have a challenge on our hands in recent months, but we have also done really well for response to the particular challenge then day. And we have to give credit to security forces, police, awareness, the military as well. We don't do it tremendously well. in the face of these circumstances for really, really deal with those situations. But when President Bio also referred to security as well, regionally as well, we are in a bloc we're very volatile, where you've had military crews across across the bloc, whether in Burkina Faso, whether in Niger, whether in Mali, whether in Guinea, all of these places. But also, it means despite the turmoil and unsafety where they go, the turmoil and the security crisis within them places, then he is also doing a own part for make sure, say, one, we get to a point where we can resolve them and stabilize them and return them countries there back to normalcy. But secondly, as well, they don't spill over into other countries like Ghana, like Nigeria, like Ivory Coast, which are much more closer to Sierra Leone as well. So it's not an easy job. It's a very difficult one. And that's why when it become the chair of ECOWAS, one of the things that we don't do is that he has been across the region. They meet with all of them military leaders there and really also try to convince them as well. They are on their way out of the bloc. That's open secret. Yeah. So they try to convince them, one, for stay, and for see as well how we will work with them. Because the for him as well, the approach as well with ECOWAS has been, the question cannot be you isolate them entirely.
That was a question I was always going to ask. President Bio, they go meet them. Junta leaders, I will describe them as, get discussions. There are two sides to it. He's been a military leader before. He understands the thinking behind that. It's nice to engage. But then some other people, they think, say, you give this set of people legitimacy by always trying to associate with them.
Yeah, but the point here as well is that it's not our place to legitimize or delegitimize per se, because these are countries where they get their own sovereignty. The people there go then get their own rights for determining who they want. Or so Salone as a country necessarily can't tell Guinea,
even if it's by a military coup.
Like I said, Salone necessarily can't tell Guinea who should be in power or who should not be in power necessarily. What we could do as a country, and waiting President Bio, they do as a ECOWAS chairman, and for make sure, say, we find a way to work with them and possibly in the long term restore these countries to democracy. And that democratic commitment is on the table and in all of those conversations as well. But if you say, for example, the approach should be you isolate Niger, you isolate Burkina Faso, you isolate Guinea, it will be a much more difficult and volatile situations because we'll be out of touch and we're not going to know as a region, as ECOWAS, what's happening in these other countries. So the solution has been, how do you make sure you find a way that it works for them? Because as well for them, then get their own inclination as to why they are leaving. Yes, some of it means say, then get their own different reasons. Whether those reasons are right or wrong, that's another conversation altogether. But for President Bio, he don't really inherit this ECOWAS job at a difficult time. And what he is trying to do is to keep it together as a bloc. And then we talk now about other important things like trade, other important things like migration, other important things
John, I will really bring
like
you back
environment.
to the issue of drugs, the issue of security, terrorism. I'll still bring you back home. A lot of people are of the opinion that not much has been done to tackle drug issues. Like I say, day in, day out, week in, week out, we have stories of various countries there. And it can be embarrassing as a Sierra Leonean for a day and somebody coming from Gambia. They arrest some people now on a Salone border there. Somebody maybe in Ghana, maybe in Liberia. The other day, one of our very popular musicians at some point in time was arrested. They said that they try for. So these countries have their drug problems. But they make like say now they go to drug that then country then they should that not be a concern for President Bio?
No.
Look, outside the rectories of the United Nations, what is being done?
Anything really affects the image of the country is something President Bio deeply concerned about, and it's something we are trying to do. And the fact that we are now at a point when a lot of the arrests there, they go on in the region, and even inside Salone, then they catch people them. It tells you how much the security forces really they do for crackdown on them. And so sometimes a very easy for them will look at a paradoxical way that because then they arrest so many people now that it don't increase. But waiting actually the end of the show is that because they arrest so many people, meaning say we are actually doing something and we are doing the right things for catch them people there, for prosecute them, and also make sure say it becomes a very, very difficult and very expensive enterprise because they will lose their freedom, they will lose their resources, and the law as well go take care of them. And it's not an easy job, and this is something we do recognize, but also the other thing as well that people can also contribute to and not just stand on the sidelines is that they could actually be helping the security forces for crackdown on some of them drug dealers there in their communities. The other day I was speaking to somebody and the person me they say there are communities who say all man of the community know who say they sell kush and who they sell kush. But when police they go for go raid day, people and then at that same community where they tell that person they can't read you know, if they not catch the person in the community they celebrate.
The interesting thing about kush and drugs, I still believe even authorities in very high places know how this they happen because not only they make most of the drugs there, you get materials the way they carry it.
Yeah, but it goes back to this point.
So the borders are there. This is where they pass or come in.
So it goes back.
Authorities then know then border police and top authorities have been named in various circles. We can't come on air and name people because you don't get evidence of effects. But if people then name the cow and things like this, if then you know the authorities make sure say they look at example the borders and stop the coming in of most of these drugs. I don't think say go proliferate around.
No, in fact, in terms of border security. For example, Toku and other arms of the police have done remarkably well for intercepts.
Not everybody will agree with you.
No, of course.
Remarkably well.
No, everybody doesn't have to agree, but we just state the fact that they don't do remarkably well.
People see around.
Then
it can't be the fact.
So just because they don't do remarkably well, not necessarily means say some will not get their way and enter with them. But the question you also have to ask yourself is that much of the chemicals them for do kush is being imported right into the country. Unfortunately, there are some way go pass through somehow because maybe you will have people where they collaborate with other people and those people will manage to get some of these things through. Because you also have to know that some of them things and they actually these are not on their own, they are not illegal substances. So for example, if you see something like if you see some of them chemical and some of them are for industrial purposes, some of them are for medical purposes. Imagine something like formalin. If you see person they import them, you might not necessarily think say that person they count them for this, right? Because individually on its own, it's not it gets a purpose. So you just assume so okay, maybe not for that purpose, and that person gets the right papers. But somehow if that gets into the country and then some of it. So, and then we can't come to a place and now begin to say, okay, let's make a sweeping ban, for example. It's like saying, for example, sugar no good, oh, sugar they kill. And then tomorrow morning we say, okay, let nobody knock out sugar again. That's the kind of trap we will be falling into. So you see, and that's the point. So we don't do remarkably well for catch a lot of them people there, for break the network there. People waiting in that particular circle also know now say.
I really understand the fact that government has done something, but I get issue with the phrase remarkably well.
Look, the other thing.
If government has done it remarkably well,
the other thing as well.
People there for the talker.
No, the other thing as well we also have to note is that for the one them waiting in the drug economy, it is now very expensive to operate. The cost of that substance. Waiting they buy 6 months ago, waiting they buy now. The price is not the same.
More lucrative, more expensive it is.
No, but you know what's not I mean economically? It becomes the more expensive it is, it means there is more pressure and they are running dry, and it means a very difficult for abuse because it's very difficult for afford. But compared to 6, 8 or 1 year ago, when it was readily available and you get 5 loans if you go bam, it's not the same anymore. But this also just to show you say now the serious crackdown on them and on them drug enterprises them also mean now that they are under enormous pressure and some of the networks have been shut down and that they can only have very, very few, and that few there as well. The price very, very high.
Okay, John.
So you have to also look at it that way as well for make we respond to it, make sense in its entirety.
Because was there with we na stop race. I can take you slightly away from the president's speech. We seem to have, delved into it, and I want to take you outside the broader media economy and how things that happen at the media. And not forget, we're there on Facebook Live, and we're also on YouTube. Just go to our channels and drop your questions and then, because I see a lot of people want to ask Jad questions. So people have missed you a lot. So maybe people don't ask questions about the president's speech, about other things he could answer. If you get questions, drop our Facebook page and drop on our YouTube, where we are monitoring those platforms, and we'll definitely bring him the questions. This is one of the ways we'll get interaction. In subsequent editions of the program, we're going to forget numbers, we're going to send messages then as we go along. The program na Stop Press, and me name na Christian Conte. So, away from the president's speech, Jawad, now you done in the media ecosystem for a while, now with the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. How is the ministry ensuring that una get this convergence between traditional media and social media? This is an era where I don't notice personally a lot that ministries, departments, and agencies, I'm trying not to be specific, ministries, departments, agencies, and certain ministers prefer people on who are bloggers, for example. I'm not saying it's bad, but they prefer bloggers, for example, people outside the traditional media space, because we ask tough questions and they think, say, okay, this person can ask me tough questions. This blogger, they can put in camera, pick what I say, go play, just like that. How do you create that nexus between traditional media and social media, considering the fact that this is an information ministry and the minister, for example, for be like the go-to person for traditional media?
So what we don't do as government generally, we have a very tough job on our hands, and that integration they might not necessarily be very, very smooth, but what we don't try for do. The first thing we'll need for do, and this is a conversation we've been having even when I was in the media, that okay, if you say, okay, for example, the non-traditional media, one of the bloggers, if you decry and say, oh, they are this, they are this, they are that, why not bring them up to a certain level as well? Yeah, they might not, in terms of ethical balance and responsibility, they might not have as much responsibility on their shoulders as the journalist, but if you bring them up to a certain level, then at the very least, they could all participate in a decent conversation where society really need. And that has been our approach, because we have obligation to everybody, whether or not the bloggers, whether or not the traditional media, the newspaper, the editors, and the different media interest them where we get in the ecosystem. And we take that very seriously. And so, for example, even last week we had a program where we did train content creators. Most of them are bloggers from across the country, on different ways they could tell stories as well. We empower them with knowledge, we empower them with skills, and now we put them out in the feed as well, because that's very important. And creating that nexus also means, say, we treat everybody with respect, no matter your background, and that respect they mean, say, as well, we recognize what they bring to the table as professional journalists. We also recognize waiting bloggers they bring with them platform, with them reach, but also we're not in the position for necessarily begin draw parallels or comparisons about who is better than who. That's not our job. We job now for make sure, say...
That's not even the conversation about who is better than who.
Of course.
The conversation is always about traditional media feels they're being left out at certain point because they are like traditional media, then follow rules and regulations, go by laws.
Yeah.
So for example, the minister can call now, say, when I can't cover this program, and they go applying, they go to Granat and farm and all that. The blogger would go there, pick that up, can play and so. Yeah. Therefore, ask questions. This guy actually can so. What's the essence of it? How much money would I put into this? Would I get this farm?
Yeah.
And things like that. And power is always uncomfortable when you ask those questions. So how you find that nexus, even though you might be uncomfortable, but all man forget that space, and you don't shut out traditional media entirely.
Look, in what we do. In this current government, we haven't really shut down traditional media. Yeah, maybe there might have been some instances of that where different authorities go decide for do their own private or personal PR in that particular form. But generally, as a government approach, no. The approach has always been to embrace the media, for give them the space for ask the questions, And in fact, to the extent that we do a weekly press briefing, and everybody's invited to that press briefing, you come, you ask the questions you want to ask, and we bring them people and we're responsible for those things. We put them on a platform and we say, here they are, let them give stewardship and wanna ask. But we are not just doing that. We're also taking some of those authorities and we're responsible, ministers, head of parastatals, we are taking them across the country to ordinary people, we're not to journalists themselves, for make them ask them concerns, them fears, things that we didn't want, and all of that there. And that's very important. And I mean, the fact that as well we give annual subvention to SLAJ as well tells you how much we also they invest in journalism in this country for also make sure it is there up to par.
What you say we dey give?
No, I'm
What are
as a government, I don't know they say, because it also
In my
comes.
opinion, I think it's more about the president giving.
No,
So
but
because if so
yeah,
now
but it reflects his.
so now if President Bio is no longer president, we start now short of having that subvention.
Yeah, so what we could do now, the conversation the media should be having now, for example, is how to make sure. But so, and this is the thing where I know say a lot of people get for struggle with, right? Because President Biodon set such a high bar in terms of everything we they do. Even for example, with the subvention, the conversation you guys could be having now is to how to make sure to keep that, right? But the fact that President Bill don't go as far as to say, okay, let's be giving SLAJ subvention also tells you in commitment for strengthening media, because say an empowered media could really contribute positively to the democracy, as we are doing right now, as the media, as you guys are doing right now, as my other colleagues out there as well are doing right now. And then they're very important. The media always wants more, which like every other body as well, because there are challenges, they are evolving things as well. So we will keep doing that. In terms of regulation as well, we also strengthen the legal framework as well for also make sure, say, it also respond to those challenges as well with media people in the face. So we are doing a lot of things on different fronts. We really, all of that, they just they show ways where we empower, ways how one for transform and even help the ecosystem.
You mentioned regulation. It's something I'll definitely be get for calm onto. But before regulation, let's narrow in on the ministry day, the information ministry. They follow the weekly press briefing, happens quite regularly. It's good for authorities on board. But normally when I watch press conferences in other countries, it's called a press conference because the press, there are small questions than the statements made. But from my observation, and not the first time this happened, it happened previous administrations and even previous minister, it's about the authorities come, ask, make lots of statements. One person will talk like 20 minutes. Then when it comes to questioning, journalists do not have the leverage to ask as many questions. I don't do in occasions where someone asks a question and say, no, not this we discussed today. But it's a press conference, and if the Minister of Information is there, on a normal day, might call the Minister of Information, pick up, ask and question, answer. But several journalists and colleagues, they will not get access to the Minister. The Minister don't get time for pick all my call, and it's impossible. But if you go to a press conference, as long as a question borders on government and government relations, I think they have a responsibility to answer it. But it does not happen always. Why?
Okay. No, I mean, I totally disagree with you saying no, they happen
What you
always.
disagree on?
I disagree. Okay. Let me explain how we press conference they run.
Okay.
For those people who don't want to attend it, you could also take me up on my word and attend next week. What we do is you get 3-4 government officials, and it is moderated by the minister as a host. Let's also not forget this is a government press briefing, moderated by the Minister of Information, or in other cases where the deputy minister can also moderate them. And after everybody done doing opening, and by the way, we have a timer just for make sure we kind of do this in time. It's a 90 minutes event, and then after everybody done making opening statements, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, that's like 20 minutes, and then now it's open to the press. And there are times where we can even get 3 rounds of questions, and in each round, we take at least 5 questions. And take into consideration, approximately we get between 50 to 60 journalists then where they go with press briefing. Sometimes if we take 2-3 rounds of questions, that's 15 to 20 questions. Everybody will want to ask a question at the end of the day. I know every week we get that situation, we'll say more people want to ask a question, but at the end of the day, you only have 1 hour and 30 minutes for do that particular show day because you have journalists the way they print, where by the time that press conference they don't, a need for go file in story. You get somebody who work for broadcast. You also need for run them on time by the time when you done, you go for the one. And so even questions we and every time where the minister they do the press conference, for example, they talk and say, if in no matter the question where you get, elect a not necessarily related to what we talk now, in as the Minister of Information, they go answer them. And not to 1 time, not to 2 time, not to 3 time. He has always done
our
that.
reporters will be there and ask questions.
No problem.
We'll take notes of that.
And exactly.
But me a clear example. I've been to that press conference a few times.
Yes, but
I'm coming.
You not necessarily go use your case for generalizing.
I don't even make the statement. Allow
it's
me.
a practice.
So what happened? They cover the press conference regularly.
Okay.
And under the former minister, Mohamed Mansouri. And there are times when he even asked me, what should we discuss next week? Who are the people you want? We give suggestions like that. Because for me, it's unrealistic for me, the country, they talk about education now. They call Minister of Health. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's the most topical thing. Never count. I have been there. I'm going to give you an example. You know, I'm
Yeah, how long?
So my example was...
The question as well for you.
Quite a while. I went there. I went there. And I put my hand for ask questions. I was very visible at the back. And the minister repeatedly... I'll make her ask questions. And I felt like, am I visible? At some point in time, I'm going to crash my colleague if they need to see me. And my hands were up constantly. And the minister was just... And other people ask questions. I remember one man did before me, one lady, I think a journalist, said, okay, no, more check this lady. The lady does not want to ask questions. My hands are up. So why?
Yeah,
These are some of the things. It might not be anything personal, of course, I know. But if somebody else has a scenario like that, they might think, okay, why did they... Is it some level of censorship?
No.
These thoughts might come in.
No.
And like I said, I'll put on to you.
Unfortunately, the good thing is press conference don't go through enormous transformation. Now it's much more high level. Okay. Now it's much more engaging. Now it's much more open and much more transparent. And citizens as well can actively ask questions, not just journalists, and by the way. So I'm sorry for what you went through, and I'm not denying that you didn't go through that particular experience, but I'm also saying now, I think you have one of your reporters here, we don't go press conference from the time we be there with another media extensively for over 2 years now, I think. So you could talk to her as well about her experience as well. So it's a different platform altogether, and in a way as well, it don't transform government communication. Like I say, we're doing far more than that, but that's just one of the signature things that they do every week, or they point to in terms of informing and engaging the public, and as well, and like I say, we always put ourselves up for scrutiny when we do these things, because naturally, if we afraid questions, we could just come, we put them, then talk. Then we say, that's it. When I don't hear the information, when I go right to it when I want. But no, we put ourselves up for scrutiny, because this is how democracy should run. This is how democracy should be. So some people might not like that, and then some people might be uncomfortable with that. Some people, no matter how we do them, they might still feel like, say, oh, it is managed in such a way. And you will not change those opinions. Okay. And we can only do our best. And that best day so far has been really, really transformative. Okay,
so let me take you into, still the legislation part now, they will go last week. Let me take you into the civic series where the ministry do. You know, I see a lot of it around. You can write things, share around. You go into communities, get conversations. How does it happen? For people who know they follow up on them things and they just say, Ministry of Information, don't go here. We have these people, they ask questions. A lot of Sierra Leoneans will sit somewhere and say, this is something they don't plan. And Mr. A, B, and C. Because we have an experience from a couple of years ago when the president had a town hall meeting and there was this drama where this lady would ask questions, which was not comfortable. Say, put and jog Mike Nayan, and that back and forth. So, during the civic series, is it this very open, transparent process where people really ask questions? Or now people really picking on when they say, I can't ask these questions. Have you ever had tough questions there? Angry people, but when I still left, they say, go ahead, me just asking questions, me just vent out.
Everywhere we've gone, everywhere, we don't do, by the way, when we start this Civic Day series, I think it was in February or March, with the first edition at Cambia, we go Port Local, we do Moyamba, then we do Kenema, and last week we just done Bombali. everywhere we've gone, we've met passionate Sierra Leoneans. We really want for ask and know what in the government they do about several things. Some of them had appeal. Some of them also had brilliant solutions to some of the challenges that we face in communities. And it don't really learn we a lot, because when we also go to these places, also teaching moments for we, really. So, and in every place we don't go so far, the conversations have been engaging. And these are people where, for me, some of the time I don't even meet them yet. That's the first time we are meeting most of them, except for the authorities then, because maybe we're all in the same circle sometimes. And let me just give you an example of McKinney, for example, where traditionally you might say, okay, well, this is not like opposition stronghold and some sort. Yeah. But when we go there, the conversation was so open, frank, and respectful that it was difficult for you even know who that belonged to which party. Because on the stage, and this is also another thing that we don't really manage for really, really well with the Civic Day series, it's always diverse in terms of the people where they do their engagements there. We are not just going to a place like Bombali and we send our government people and no more they talk. We put people from the opposition as well on the stage for let them talk about the young work they do. For example, the mayor of Parliament the mayor of McKinney. Yes, mayor of McKinney. It talk about the things and way government they do right and some of the challenges and way they get. It demand a few things where if you say the city also need.
I saw an MP say for the tell the former leader of
that was honorable.
They can make Samoa president, and she was like, "No, this not gonna happen." And she spoke in Timni to people and say,
"Exactly,
we need for change this narrative."
Yeah. And that's it. So you see, so this is the quality of public engagement we don't set so far. That we go to these places and people want for actively participate. And you will be surprised that even when they put the panel together, they get so much pressure because so many people they call from different political parties, we want for say, oh, but not forget me or myself, I want for day on the panel. They volunteer their time, then drive up to those places with us, and then then participate, then engage and give them views and give them thoughts. And it has been so good because in every one of those places, we've learned so much. Let me tell you an interesting story. We'll go Cambia. Cambia, when we went there in Ramadan, we wanted to do the conversation and done before 1:30 so people can go able to go pray. Because this is a predominantly Muslim environment. When we go there, even when we want done the program at 1:30, the people said, no, we want to ask more questions. Because this is the first time we together then kind galaxy of people from government and they can't talk to we and not to campaign and they campaign. Yeah. They are coming to tell us what they are doing to solve our problems. So we ended up extending the program 2 hours longer than we should. And one of the things, and very important, we are still remember what happened for the very first time. The people in Cambia, they ask, say, them poor they put up. You don't say they put them up, and we don't even know that they do the work. And the good thing for we get Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela. He was part of that trip. And he say, I'm glad you want to ask the question because for the very first time today, they can't meet the contractor where they do this work. And then he called the contractor. People didn't even know him, right? And then the contractor explained in your own challenges. Those challenges mean, say, people that they thief the cable them, people that they thief some of the equipment them. And it means, say, for them, it's become more expensive to do the project. And there and then, community leaders, including paramount chiefs, committed that, you know what? We'll not be noticing a challenge in this. We serve as a community now. We are going to do better for protect. So, the lesson in that, quickly, let me just wrap. The lesson in that is that because of this community dialogue, because of the Civic Day series, we'll go to them. And for the very first time, they're having this open, frank conversation. They not just identify a problem, they, as a community as well, identify a solution that they will be part of for protecting their own community.
So another very interesting conversation I've had in media circles, people have asked questions. In as much as the ministry claims, say, I don't do so much well, people are engaged in all that, and the people that ask about the cost-benefit analysis. And somebody once asked me, and the person tell me specifically, say, if you get Jawad here, ask this question. Maybe he either answers the question or takes it to the minister to answer. And the question is about the cost of these activities compared to the benefits. They say how much resources they go into this that we're doing every week. You know, compared to it, the real benefits them we get from all these engagements.
Okay. If you go to a place, any place in this country, one of the first things we then go tell you now that they want to hear more from their leaders. And the cost of that information gap, take for example, in so many countries where they don't get public engagement as robust as we have, waiting on they brew na dissent. They brew dissent, dissatisfaction, and people feel like they are not being heard because nobody not even they can't listen to them. Nobody and what that brews is conflict, chaos, and then you have a much more expensive process of rebuilding or stopping that conflict, and it ends in the damage to lives, and it takes years or even decades for repair. What we are now doing as a consequence of everything we don't learn from the civil war now that people want to be heard. People want somebody where they come to them and hear them problem and explain to them what you are doing about it. You might not even have a solution, but the fact that you are bold enough to go to them and explain how the process works, they respect that and they feel part of the process. And there can be, and this is an investment worth making in with democracy for expanding the engagement and for also create a platform where I'm not even just talking about adults here, right? When we go to, there was a district when we go to where one school picking is in and I ask a question, he say, waiting there for happen, we want to do this constitutional review, waiting there for happen to the free quality education. He say, because we don't benefit from. We President Bio de Goso, again for still day. That's a question that came from a kid we worry about in future or maybe the future of in small sister or brother within our house. Not a person puts that question anymore, but it was a very deep questions that the force we follow will reflect and make those necessary changes for the future of this country. So there's no investment will go be so great that you could say it's not worth putting into that particular process. So
definitely,
that's what we do.
Before we wrap up with a question around the laws, one of my listeners just tell me, say, I give you a lot of time for explain the issues, and this is what we do here on Truth Media. It's not always we need to get a conversation, we get back and forth, two people arguing, and you don't understand. We responsibility now for ask the tough questions, make the people in authority answer the questions. It's your responsibility as a citizen for understanding they say, go check back if not true or not false. Just give them the opportunity to talk and be heard. And we get a very decent conversation. I be expect Melvin for joining our studios because Melvin might have some alternate views, but join due to one or two reasons. But definitely it's a conversation we're going to keep having continuously, and even when I mention my own personal experiences and the press briefing, we'll definitely go there and come back with response. Okay, this will improve because it's our responsibility. We're all our government for make things better. Call things out that you think are not going on well, and we can make it better. So finally, before we wrap up the show, there's this question in media circles also about the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act. We all don't be journalists for quite a while. And you understand what's in the law on libel was, the criminal libel law, how it suppressed journalists, and it was removed, and we all had a very good time and happy for that. And then we have the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act now. I think the Attorney General was here, and my colleague Lamwana asked him questions, and he said, this is something we need to sit down and look at, the police and judiciary, and maybe the media, how would they implement this law? At the Ministry of Information level, have you had discussions like that? The minister we're responsible for information, is he kind of looking at that? Say this is not something we get the potential for, for throw spanners into President Bio's work. Even though the media had crowned him as champion of free speech, he get a tendency for throw spanners into his work. He go there and host maybe on weekends, joins a call Mr. Minister, that so don't happen. Is it a conversation that you've been having in the ministry? Yeah,
definitely it's a conversation, and just like what the AG say, it's a conversation where we even need to take a step further, and like you say, normal AG say, there would be some conversation at some level with the judiciary, with the police, and everybody else, just for understand the framework of the law better and how it should be applied, so it doesn't necessarily become a tool target free speech. So definitely, I mean, it's something we will talk about, because anything really where they stifle free speech is something we are very concerned about, because we don't do a lot of work for put ourselves in a very enviable position regarding free speech, media freedom, and things like that. So we don't necessarily go once something where we can derail a particular progress where we don't spend some time for make. So it's something definitely we are having a conversation about, and it's something we definitely we will come to some form of conclusion on how it should be done, so everybody go feel protected, journalism as well go feel protected for do them work as you are right now.
Okay, so finally, as you leave us, what thing we for the expect from the ministry on a regular in terms of interaction with the public, in terms of communication? When I get any avenue where somebody thinks, say, this is what I want, or this is what I'm not getting, how forget that conversation flowing without necessarily having to get onto the minister.
Yes.
Get channels like that.
And so we get free public engagement channels with 818 on all mobile networks. Send text, you ask we a question, and then anytime we next public engagement come, we gather then text in there as well. Every time we do press conference as well, we slide a link. We also did it where people can also ask questions, and those questions, some of the time we might not have answer to it. Maybe you ask question about health related something, so it means we'll go for forward question there, and when we get a response, and then we go reach out to you. So these are all public engagement feedback mechanism that we don't build. In terms of what we are doing from now to the end of the year, we still have a few Civic Day series that we are also taking across the country. But by far the biggest event where we prepare for now are the Civic Festival, where we do last year. It was the first edition. And this is a culmination of all of them Civic Day series that we don't do, really for bring out and showcase government in terms of everything government will achieve for the year. You have the president coming, like last year we had the vice president, we had different ministers showcasing some of the things, because this is also a process of accountability to the people, right? So you don't necessarily need for wait for let something happen for can't tell them what are you doing about it. So that's not our approach. Our approach has always been for make we be proactive in showing people now this way they do. And then if you have a question about those service delivery issues, you could now come and actually meet the person we're responsible for the portfolio, and those people will now find ways now for answer your questions. Okay,
thank you so much, Gerard, for joining us in the studios. Leaving your very busy schedule. We really do appreciate that. But that's all we have time for in today's edition of Stop Press here on Truth Radio 103.9 FM. I've been your host, Christian Conte. Stop Press returns on Monday at 11 a.m. Until then, thank you so much to my guests, Mohamed Jawad Nyale and Melvin. We seem for flip on. I think maybe Melvin be one. You explain thoroughly. Everybody understand.
Well, I wish he was here.
And I'm emphasizing this. This is what we do. We bring Jawad here for can explain from the policy angle what is happening. We always go get a conversation where they bring other people for can say, okay, this is what is not going right, and una still need for explain. Like it don't mention a lot of things. Example, the 818 line, send message there, send comments there. If they don't respond, come back to we, and we'll take them up on that. And they say, okay, when I don't say this, and people that they call and then they respond, we'll follow up the press briefing, and also the Civic Day series. Definitely, we're going to do, like I say, a cost benefits analysis of the Civic Day series. So that's how I will wrap up the show this afternoon. My technical director has been Simon. Thank you very much to Ansel, part of the technical team, and my colleagues from the newsroom for all and support. And DJ Muski will always there behind the mixer quietly. Thank you so much for all the support. Until Monday, keep listening to Truth Radio 103.9 FM. Read Truth newspaper every Mondays, the hard copy. You can also follow me online, truthmedia.sl. We got a WhatsApp channel. We are on almost all platforms. Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, every platform. Just follow us and get the news on the go. Have a wonderful day. This is Stop Press.
I hope that our visitors would listen to this song carefully, because it's true. They're trying their best to stop our progress.